That's how we know that this ship can be converted into a sailing ship, because she already was one. Things are just moving when the boat is moving. So this boat really needed to prove itself on one of the most dangerous fishing grounds in the world.
Hello, it's so good to see you again. I am Barbara, and together with my husband Daniel, I restored a historic sailing ship, Flying Coney. A few weeks back we found a weeping spot in the engine room bilge, and now we have to bring Flying Coney to the shipyard. The hauler is already booked, so we have to get to work in time. However, the weather doesn't look too good. There's quite some wind and waves forecasted, and with Flying Coney still being a floating building site, we usually try to avoid waves at all. But more about Flying Coney's seaworthiness later. And since we have the appointment at the shipyard, we have to make the crossing anyway. So let's see how it goes.
I hope there will be not much rolling on this journey, so we're really looking forward to a nice and great passage to work. So today we're going from Lemmer to Urk, which is about 18 nautical miles. Leaving the dock here is very easy, and we will use an aft spring to get the bow off the dock. But the wind is blowing us away anyway from the dock, so it should be really easy to leave here. Undocking went perfectly smooth, no problems at all. Now we are on the open IJsselmeer, and there's still a lot of wind, but the waves are directly on our nose, and the wind is costing us roughly half a knot, so it will take a little bit longer to Urk.
Undocking was really easy this time, and it feels so good to finally gain some experience maneuvering Flying Coney. It is a lot of fun, and learning all these new skills is really exciting. However, life isn't always that easy, especially when refitting an 82-feet sailing ship just by the two of us. Since we bought Flying Coney, we had many setbacks, and especially the first shipyard time wasn't easy. We discovered many problems and had to gut the whole interior. It really felt like a huge step back. All our plans and dreams were gone, and we had no idea how to continue. It took a while to recover from this huge setback, to settle in this new situation, and to come up with new plans how to continue. Luckily, there is a platform called BetterHelp, which is also the paid partner of this video. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give helpful and unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/flyingconey. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you within a few days to a professional therapist. Talking to a therapist helped me to move forward after all these setbacks. It helped me to see the possibilities and options we have, and to continue with our dream. So talking to a therapist can be helpful in many situations, and not only when you have a clinical mental health issue. So if you think it can help you too, then head over to betterhelp.com/flyingconey or select Sailing Flying Coney at sign up to get 10% off your first month of therapy. I know many of you wonder how we know that Flying Coney will be a seaworthy sailing ship, and there are many things we consider when it comes to this question. However, one point that stood out quite from the beginning was her history as a warship.
Flying Coney was indeed built as a warship for the Germans in the Netherlands. It was probably built back in 1941 and originally with a wooden hull. I know that many of you are interested in this topic because I do answer quite a lot of questions down in the comments regarding the warship history of this ship. I think that's a very interesting topic and that it does deserve its own video, so if that's something you do want to have on this channel, then let us know in the comments. So what they did is they took a sailing ship hull and adopted the sailing ship hull for the use of an engine. At the sea trials they found out that this design was extremely seaworthy, extremely capable and could cope with rough weather and high waves in a very good manner. Fun fact on this point, the designing process took place in Vienna, very close to the place where I grew up as a kid, and that's something we found out after we bought the boat. So why is this hull shape so good for a sailing ship conversion? Not only that the hull is very stable, that the ship is very seaworthy, that it is very efficient and we do not use a lot of fuel, but if there is a thing like a standard tall ship hull, then it is this design, because there are multiple other ships around based on this type of warship with multiple different rig types like brigantines, schooners, ketches, motor sailors, you name it. It is a well-proven design and we can be sure that we do have a safe, reliable and very efficient sailing ship after we finish the conversion.
We just left the harbour and are still in the sheltered Bay of Lemmer, so there isn't too much wind and waves. However, that will change as soon as we reach open water.
So after the ship survived World War II, it had to prove itself once again as a fishing trawler. This type of warship was designed so that it can be easily converted into a warship or from a warship into a fishing trawler. That was the basic idea. Some of them were converted from wooden ships into steel boats, and Flying Coney is the first example for that, and they did that in 1950. One side note here is that the boat was also used as an offshore tug to bring other fishing vessels home, because it had an insanely large engine that came from a boat that was almost twice the size of this boat, so it really had a lot of power, and with the good hull shape it was really capable of doing that.
So thanks to her good hull shape, Flying Coney behaves really well even in rough seas. And as you can see, as soon as we left the sheltered bay, we got some short, choppy waves, which are very typical for the Eiselmeer, and she handled them with ease.
So this boat really needed to prove itself on one of the most dangerous fishing grounds in the world, which is the North Sea, with high waves and many storms, so we can be sure that this boat is much more capable to survive rough weather than the people sailing on her.
For most of the journey we had the wind right on our nose. However, to actually get to Urk we had to turn port. We planned the route so that this would happen at the end of the journey, because the wind was forecasted to decrease in the afternoon.
So one very important thing is that this boat already has proven herself as a sailing ship, and we will make a detailed video about her time as a sailing ship. And not only was it some sort of motor sailor, no, she really was rigged as a schooner brig with a lot of sail area, and she reached often speeds over 10 knots, sometimes even 14 knots, which is quite a lot. So that's how we know that this ship can be converted into a sailing ship, because she already was one.
The wind actually calmed down. However, the waves were still rough when we had to make the turn. And as soon as we got the waves sideways, Flying Coney started to roll a bit, which is completely normal. It is a slow, gentle movement, and we actually enjoy it when our big ship starts moving.
So when this ship has proven herself as a warship, as a fishing trawler on the North Sea, as an offshore tug, and even as a sailing ship, and there never was an issue about the stability and about the design of the boat, why are we concerned when we do sail on a lake with just a little bit more wind and just a little bit more waves? The biggest problem is not the design, but that we have removed all the interior and that we are a floating building site and that everything is just standing around and there is no possibility to lash everything down. So things are just moving when the boat is moving. Not so much down here in the hull, but in the wheelhouse or in the aft cabin, things start wandering and moving when the ship starts rolling. And that's not good, and that's just the nature of the boat being a floating building site. And also we still need to do some structural repairs and some frame repairs down here in the former cargo hold of the ship. There is absolutely no risk of the boat breaking up into two.
Yeah, you know, if there's one frame missing a little, that's also not, the ship will not collapse on that.
And I know I'm a little bit overly concerned in this regard, but I wouldn't take the boat out on the open ocean. I wouldn't push it through harsh waves and harsh conditions, because there is the minimal chance that there is some sort of deformation to the hull, and that's permanent, and I don't want to risk that.
When we arrived at Urk, the wind and the waves had already calmed down and approaching the harbour was really easy. We've already been to Urk a few times and usually there's enough space on the long landing stage that runs all the way into the harbour. However, this time it was really busy, so we had to make our round in the harbour to find a suitable spot. There was just one spot left that was big enough for Flying Coney, so we moored right at the harbour entrance, which is a nice spot, not many people walking by and still well protected against the wind and the waves. Overall, this journey went really well. Even though Flying Coney did roll a bit in the end, we managed to store everything good enough. Still, due to her floating building site condition, I prefer to go in calmer weather. Anyway, we made it to Urk, and Daniel already told you that there will be a video about Flying Coney's time as a sailing ship. And actually it will be the next one. So if you want to know more about her history, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.